Hey Gemini, I need to share something with you today because the energy coming through in this reading is honestly pretty wild. I have been doing readings for different signs all week, and when I sat down to pull cards for you guys, I was not expecting this particular narrative to show up. But here we are, and I think you are really going to want to hear what the universe is revealing right now. So I am going to be completely honest with you. This reading is about someone who tried to manipulate you. Someone who cast some kind of energetic spell or psychological hold over you, and how that entire dynamic is now completely falling apart. Not just falling apart actually, but reversing back onto them in ways they never saw coming. The cards are showing me this whole story of liberation and karmic justice. And I'm genuinely excited to walk through this with you because the insights here are pretty profound. Before we dive into the cards, I just want you to know that if you have been feeling like you finally broke free from something or someone recently, or if you have been sensing that someone who once had power over you is now struggling themselves, this reading is going to confirm a lot of what you have been picking up on. The energy here is very specific and very clear. Alright, let me show you what came through. I pulled 6 cards for this reading, and each one is going to reveal a different layer of this situation. We are going to look at what spell or hold was placed on you, how it broke, what is happening to the person who tried to control you, and where you are heading from here. So get comfortable because we have a lot to unpack. The first card I pulled is the Page of Swords, and this is already telling me so much about how this whole dynamic started. The Page of Swords represents someone who was using information, communication, and mental tactics to maintain control over you. This was not some obvious, aggressive manipulation. This was subtle. This was someone who knew exactly what to say to keep you off balance. Who could twist words and create confusion? Who weaponized their intelligence or communication style to make you question yourself? What I find really interesting about the Page of Swords showing up here is that this person was not necessarily more intelligent or more aware than you. They were just more willing to play games. Pages in the tarot represent that youthful, sometimes immature energy. And in the Suit of Swords, which is all about the mind and communication, this tells me someone was using mental tricks that actually were not as sophisticated as they seemed. They were just persistent and strategic. This person likely kept you engaged through mixed signals, through hot and cold behavior, through breadcrumbing or intermittent reinforcement. They said things that made you feel special one moment and uncertain the next. They might have shared information about themselves that created a false sense of intimacy, or they withheld information to create mystery and keep you chasing. The spell they cast was fundamentally based on keeping your mind occupied, keeping you analyzing and trying to figure them out. For Gemini specifically, this is particularly insidious because you are naturally curious and mentally engaged. You like puzzles, you like interesting conversations, you like people who stimulate your mind. This person basically turned your greatest strength into a weakness by creating an endless mental puzzle that had no real solution. They kept you trapped in your head, constantly trying to decode their behavior, constantly wondering what they really meant, constantly hoping that if you just understood them better, things would click into place. But here is what the Page of Swords is really revealing. This person was operating from a place of insecurity and immaturity. They were not some master manipulator with deep psychological insight. They were someone who learned a few tricks and deployed them without real substance behind them. The spell they cast was smoke and mirrors, and it only worked because you were generous enough to give them the benefit of the doubt and intelligent enough to create complex explanations for their simple bad behavior. The second card is 9 of Pentacles. And this is where things get really interesting because this card is showing me your energy, your reality, and why the spell ultimately could not hold. 9 of Pentacles is one of the most beautiful cards in the entire deck. It represents independence, self-sufficiency, luxury, refinement, and someone who has built something real and substantial in their life through their own efforts. What this card is telling me is that you are not someone who can be controlled long-term because you are fundamentally self-reliant. You have your own resources, your own accomplishments, your own sense of worth that is not dependent on anyone else validating you. This person tried to cast a spell on someone who is actually way more powerful than they realized. They thought they were dealing with someone who needed them, but they were actually dealing with someone who was choosing to engage with them. And there is a massive difference between those two positions. The Nine of Pentacles often shows up for people who have done significant personal work, who have invested in themselves, who have created a life they are proud of. This might be career success, financial independence, personal growth, creative accomplishments, or simply a deep sense of self-possession. Whatever form it takes for you specifically. This card is saying that you have built something real. Something that cannot be shaken by someone else's manipulation games. Here is what I think happened based on this card. At first, you were open and curious about this connection. You engaged with this person because you saw potential, because you were interested, because you were someone who appreciates interesting people and experiences. But as their manipulation tactics continued, something in you started to resist. Your Nine of Pentacles energy, that core sense of self-worth and independence, started to rebel against the dynamic they were trying to create. You probably started noticing moments where you felt smaller around them. Moments where you are not showing up as your full self. Moments where you are dimming your light or second-guessing your accomplishments or playing down your success to make them feel more comfortable. And for someone with strong Nine of Pentacles energy, that feels fundamentally wrong. It feels like betraying yourself. It feels like trading something precious for something that is not even real. The spell broke because you are not someone who can be kept in a cage, even a psychological one. You need freedom, you need space to be yourself, you need to feel like you are growing and expanding rather than contracting and diminishing. And eventually, this person's attempts to control you through mental games ran directly into your need for authentic self-expression and independence. Something had to give. And what gave was their hold over you. The third card is the Fool, and okay. This is where the reading takes a turn that honestly made me pause when I pulled it, because the Fool is card number 0 in the tarot, and it represents new beginnings, taking a leap of faith, innocent trust, and also, importantly, the energy of someone who is not jaded or closed off. The Fool walks right up to the edge of the cliff with complete trust that everything will work out. What this card is revealing is that part of how this person was able to cast their spell on you in the first place was because you approached the connection with full energy. You are open, trusting, willing to take a chance, not heavily guarded or cynical. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. You believed in the possibility of something real. You were willing to be vulnerable and see where things went. And here is the thing that I want you to really hear. The Fool showing up in this reading is not a criticism of you. Being open and trusting is not a weakness. Being willing to take emotional risks is not naivety. The Fool is actually one of the most spiritually advanced energies in the entire tarot because it represents someone who has not let past hurts close their heart. Someone who still believes in magic and possibility. Someone who is brave enough to step into the unknown. This person took advantage of your full energy. They saw your openness and they exploited it. They saw your willingness to trust and they manipulated it. They saw your belief in possibility and they used it to string you along. But the fact that they were able to do this says everything about them and nothing negative about you. Your openness is a gift. Your trust is a strength. Your willingness to be vulnerable is what makes you capable of real connection and real love. What the Fool is showing me is that the spell broke when you realized that this person was not meeting you with the same open, authentic energy that you were bringing to the table. You were being real and they were playing games. You were being vulnerable, and they were being strategic. You were showing up as your whole self, and they were showing up as a carefully constructed persona designed to maintain control. The moment you recognized that fundamental mismatch, the spell shattered. Because the Fool energy might be trusting, but it is not stupid. The Fool might be open, but they are also deeply intuitive. And at some point, your intuition kicked in and said, "This is not real, this is not reciprocal, this is not what I thought it was." And once you saw through the illusion, you could not unsee it. What I love about the Fool appearing here is that it is also telling me you are ready for a genuine new beginning. You are not closing yourself off because of this experience. You are not becoming bitter or jaded. You are processing what happened, learning from it, and preparing to step into new experiences with your heart still open, but your awareness more refined. You are taking the wisdom without taking on the wound. The fourth card is the Chariot. And this is the card that is showing me the actual breaking of the spell. The moment when you took your power back and moved forward with determination and will. The Chariot is all about victory, willpower, determination, and directed movement. This is someone who has harnessed their energy and is moving forward with clear intention and unstoppable momentum. What I am seeing with the Chariot is that at some point, you made a decision. You decided that you were done with the confusion, done with the games, done with the mental gymnastics of trying to figure this person out. You decided that you were worth more than breadcrumbs and mixed signals. You decided that you would rather be alone and at peace than attached and anxious. And once you made that decision, everything shifted. The Chariot represents that moment when you stop being reactive and start being proactive. Instead of waiting for this person to change or clarify or show up differently, you took control of the situation yourself. You might have created distance. You might have set boundaries. You might have ended communication. Or you might have just internally decided that you were no longer available for their manipulation. Whatever form it took, you claimed your power back. What is really significant about the Chariot showing up here is that this card is associated with the astrological sign of Cancer, which is actually your sister sign, Gemini. Cancer and Gemini are very different energies, but they are connected. And what Cancer brings that complements Gemini is emotional clarity and protective boundaries. Where Gemini is curious and open and intellectually flexible, Cancer knows how to protect what is sacred and how to create emotional safety. The spell broke because you activated that Cancerian energy within yourself. You stopped being endlessly curious and adaptable about this person's behavior and started being protective of your own emotional well-being. You stopped trying to understand them from every possible angle and started honoring your own feelings and needs. You stopped being mentally flexible about their inconsistency and started demanding emotional consistency and respect. The Chariot is also telling me that once you made this decision to move forward, you did so with impressive determination. This was not a wishy-washy, maybe I will try to create some space kind of energy. This was a full commitment to your own well-being. You might have surprised yourself with how strong and clear you became. You might have surprised this person too, because they were probably so used to you being accommodating and understanding and willing to give them endless chances. But the Chariot does not give endless chances. The Chariot assesses the situation, makes a decision, and moves forward with complete conviction. And that is exactly what you did. The spell broke because you decided it was broken. And you backed up that decision with unwavering determination to protect yourself and move towards something better. The fifth card is Two of Swords. And this is showing me what is happening to the person who tried to manipulate you. And honestly, this is where the karmic justice element of this reading really comes into focus. The Two of Swords represents being stuck, being unable to make a decision, being in a state of stalemate or mental paralysis. This is someone who is blindfolded, holding to swords in a defensive posture, completely frozen and unable to move forward. What the Two of Swords is revealing is that as soon as you broke free from their spell and moved on with your Chariot energy, this person became completely stuck. The dynamic they created, the control they thought they had, the psychological games they were playing, all of it relied on you remaining engaged and available. Once you removed yourself from the equation, their entire strategy fell apart, and they have been left in this state of confusion and indecision. Think about it this way. When someone is manipulating you, they are getting something out of it. They are getting attention, validation, a sense of power, entertainment, ego reinforcement, whatever it is. They are benefiting from keeping you emotionally invested in them. But the moment you withdraw that investment, they lose their supply. They lose the person who was trying to figure them out. The person who was giving them the benefit of the doubt. The person who was providing them with energy and attention. The Two of Swords is showing me that this person is now facing a choice they cannot make. They have to decide whether to actually show up authentically and do the work to be a real person in real connection, or to continue their manipulation tactics with someone else. But here is the problem. After experiencing the high of manipulating someone like you, someone intelligent and interesting and self-possessed, everyone else probably feels boring to them. They raise the bar for themselves by targeting you. And now they are stuck because they cannot go back to easier targets. But they also do not have the capacity to actually show up in a real way. What is even more interesting about the Two of Swords is that it represents self-imposed blindness. Those swords are not being held by anyone else. This person is holding themselves in this stuck position because they refuse to see the truth about themselves. They refuse to acknowledge that their manipulation tactics are what drove you away. They refuse to take responsibility for their own behavior. They refuse to look at why they needed to control you in the first place. So the spell they cast on you has absolutely reversed back onto them. They tried to keep you confused and mentally paralyzed, and now they are the ones who cannot think clearly or move forward. They tried to keep you in a state of uncertainty and indecision, and now they are completely stuck. They tried to make you feel like you needed to figure them out, and now they are the ones who cannot figure out what went wrong or how to fix it. The karmic reversal here is honestly pretty perfect. The very tactics they used against you have become the prison they now live in. They are experiencing firsthand what it feels like to be mentally trapped, unable to move forward, caught between two equally unsatisfying options, blindfolded to the truth. The universe has a way of teaching people lessons through direct experience. And this person is getting a masterclass in how their own manipulation feels from the inside. The sixth and final card is Five of Cups. And this is showing me the emotional aftermath for the person who tried to control you. And this is where we really see the full extent of the karmic reversal. Five of Cups is one of the most melancholic cards in the entire deck. It shows someone standing in front of three spilled cups, focused entirely on their loss, while behind them, two cups remain standing. This card represents grief, regret, disappointment, and the tendency to focus on what went wrong while being blind to what still remains. What Five of Cups is revealing is that this person is now dealing with genuine loss and regret. They had something real available to them. They had you, someone who was open and authentic and willing to build something genuine. They had the opportunity for real connection. But because they chose manipulation over authenticity, because they chose control over vulnerability, because they chose games over genuine relating, they lost it all. The Five of Cups is showing me someone who is now looking at the wreckage of what could have been and feeling genuine grief about it. They are realizing, perhaps too late, what they actually had and what they threw away. They're seeing you move forward with your life, seeing you thriving in your Nine of Pentacles energy, seeing you walking away with Chariot determination. And they are finally understanding what they lost. Asterisk, what makes this particularly painful for them is that they caused this themselves. This is not a situation where external circumstances pulled you apart or where there was mutual incompatibility. This is a situation where they actively sabotaged something good through their own manipulative behavior. They created the very loss they are now grieving. The spell reversed back onto them because they essentially cursed themselves through their own actions. The Five of Cups also represents an inability to move forward because of being too focused on loss, while you are moving ahead with clear determination and new beginnings. This person is stuck in the past, replaying what happened, wondering if they could have done things differently, feeling sorry for themselves but not actually doing the deep work to change. They are caught in regret but not in growth. Here is what I find most significant about the Five of Cups showing up as the final card. Those two cups that are still standing behind the figure represent opportunity and possibility that still exists. But the person in the card cannot see them because they are too focused on what they lost. This tells me that this person will likely continue to create these same patterns in future relationships, unless they turn around and actually look at what they need to heal within themselves. But that is not your responsibility. That is not your problem to solve. That is not your burden to carry. Your job is to keep moving forward, to keep honoring your Nine of Pentacles independence, to keep trusting your full intuition, to keep directing your Chariot determination toward your own goals and dreams and the life you want to create. The spell broke. It reversed. Justice was served not through your effort or revenge or trying to make them understand, but simply through you choosing yourself and walking away. The universe handled the rest. Their karma is their own frozen indecision and their own grief over losing something real. Your reward is freedom, clarity, and the open road ahead. So Gemini, if you have been wondering whether you made the right choice in walking away from someone who was playing games with you, this reading is confirmation that you absolutely did. If you have been wondering whether that person is experiencing any consequences for their manipulation, the answer is yes. They are stuck, and they are grieving, and they are learning lessons the hard way. If you have been wondering whether you can trust yourself to be open in future connections despite this experience, the answer is also yes. Because your openness is a strength, not a weakness. And the right person will honor it rather than exploit it. The spell is broken. The reversal is complete. You are free. And everything that comes next is yours to create without anyone trying to control or manipulate or limit you. That is the message coming through for you today. And I hope it resonates with what you have been experiencing and feeling. Take care of yourself, Gemini. Trust your journey. You did the right thing.